Welcome to Balancing the Ledger, where tech and finance intersect. I'm Jen Viechner, and today I'm here with Mike Belshe, the CEO and founder of BitGo. Thank you so much for being here, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what BitGo actually does.
So BitGo is a security and scalability platform for digital assets. We got to start with Bitcoin back in 2013.
Simply put, these are sometimes called wallets?
Sure, we build wallets. That's right. Yeah, the security platform for digital assets. We started with Bitcoin back in 2013. We now support, I think it's somewhere around 85. Yeah, that's what we do.
And what's the difference between a company like BitGo and some of these exchanges like a Coinbase?
We don't trade. We are a security platform, started out as pure technology. These days, in addition to the technology, we also do custodianship. So custody, of course, has been much talked about lately. In our view, it's actually been the missing piece of kind of infrastructure for digital currency technology. When exchanges started, they didn't have, for instance, banks or trusts or custodians to go to. They had to build it themselves. So Coinbase and Gemini, Bittrex, Binance, they're exchanges. They do trading. We don't do trading. We're a security and custodian platform.
Okay, yeah, because some of the exchanges actually like Coinbase and some of the other ones have actually said they do offer custody solutions. So what makes BitGo different from those custody solutions?
Right. So we're building custodianship more for institutional investors and then in a very different way. So we're now a qualified custodian. That's through the Division of Banking in South Dakota. We just were granted that a few weeks back, actually. This allows us to help customers that need us to meet the custody rule. So custody rule is part of the 1940 Advisors Act. If you are a hedge fund or an RIA or somebody with fiduciary responsibility for someone else's money, when you hold their money or their asset, you're required to use what's called a qualified custodian. The exchanges, they are sometimes offering custodianship, but they're not qualified custodians themselves. And in fact, what they're really doing is they're trying to hold funds so that you'll use their exchange, right? So in other asset classes, you don't have the exchange hold the funds. You just never do it. In fact, if the NYSE went to the SEC and said, hey, please let us be a custodian for the assets that we trade, the SEC would laugh them out of the room. It's just not allowed in any other asset class. And this is because we know that there's been a number of abuses that happen when you start to put these things together. You need kind of a separation and a checks and balances between the different parties that are involved in trading. Just for example, if you look at how Bernie Madoff operated, he claimed to have a bunch of assets, but he didn't have them. And he's actually been public about it. He says to this day, if he had been required to use an independent qualified custodian, he would have never been able to get away with it.
The Ponzi scheme, the biggest Ponzi scheme ever.
The biggest Ponzi scheme ever. That's right. So anyway, I'm not saying that the exchanges are operating in a malicious way today. However, it does open up that potential for abuse. The exchanges are primarily focused on retail investors, right? They're interested in signing up 100,000 new users a day. It's a very hard, challenging problem. They have a small team that works on security, but BitGo has the largest, dedicated research and development team solely purposed towards security of any company in the world. And that's because that's all we do. We're not focused on trading. We're not an exchange.
And you also have some big news that you're announcing this week. Can you share that with us?
This week, we're happy to announce we're now supporting Dash, and Stellar is coming. It's in final test. Will be out very soon. And
why those two did you decide to add them now?
Both of these offer some advances, particularly around payments. So in the case of Dash, they offer instant payments. That's one of their big focuses. They also have some privacy payments that they do. So that's unique. In the case of Stellar, they've done a lot in terms of tokenization. So they're targeting also kind of global payments, more for consumers, a little bit different than what Bitcoin itself does.
So, with some of the cryptocurrency exchanges, there's been a lot of talk and controversy this year over which tokens to add, because if you trade it, the SEC has jurisdiction over, are you actually trading a security and is that legal or not, whether a token is a security or not. Does that concern you? Is that something that goes into your process? Because I know people aren't actually trading on BitGo.
So we do care, right? We don't want to promote any type of coin that isn't legitimate or would be a detriment to investors. At the same time, we're in a period where there's tremendous innovation. So things are changing rapidly. There's tokenization of all kinds of assets. There's features that are yet to be determined for different types of blockchains. So there's more work coming. We, however, don't have the same problem that exchanges have. So exchanges, you're right. If you're going to trade something that's an equity, you need to be registered as an exchange that's authorized to trade equities. we're a custodian. So a custodian has different rules, right? Basically, you give me something to keep safe, and we give it back to you later. And whether it's an equity or commodity or something else is not differentiated in the same way.
You actually started at Google. How did you get into cryptocurrency? Why did you start BitGo?
Actually, it does come more or less from a personal need. I think a lot of companies do emerge that way. Back 2011, 2012, started helping some of my friends acquire Bitcoin. I acquired some Bitcoin. Being the technical person, I was the one that secured it. So at the time, I used some very secure technology. I had an air-gapped Mac laptop, which I safely stored underneath my couch, and that was okay for a while. But as the value of Bitcoin continued to grow, and eventually it was many millions of dollars, I started to get worried. There was a lot of research at the time about the prevalence of malware. I was privy to that by way of my work at Google. I was one of the early guys on the Chrome team there. I was worried about my kids spilling Coke on the machine. I was worried about getting malware. That led me to research, like there must be a better way. I uncovered this little obscure area of Bitcoin called P2SH, which is actually the underpinnings for multisig, and BitGo was born.
Yeah, several cryptocurrency executives actually travel now with their own physical security or bodyguards. You don't. Is that something you're concerned about? In terms of they've actually been targeted and kidnapped in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, that's happening. I mean, it's a real need. Most of us, when we have large amounts of assets, we do look to more secure ways to store it. You could, take your paycheck every month and you convert it to cash and put that in your house, right? But you probably use a bank. And for large amounts of money, I think, most people are going to opt for that. For small amounts of money, I mean, the great thing about Bitcoin is that you have complete control. You can do whatever you want with it. That's one of the most liberating and exciting parts of this decentralized technology, is that you don't have to count on anybody else. But should you pass away, how do you pass it on to your heirs, right? How do you protect yourself physically? Those are hard problems that we don't usually think about because we've taken care of that in the cash world with banks. So anyway, I think that's a critical element to fix. We need to make sure that people know that, like, you can come and try to attack me, but I can't give you my Bitcoin because, frankly, I don't even have the ability to give it to you right now.
With the addition of Dash and Stellar, you guys are actually up to supporting something like 85 coins. We've also seen a big trend with stablecoins, either pegged to the US dollar or, at about $1 a coin. Just this weekend, Andreessen Horowitz invested in MakerDAO. I just heard PwC, even as the auditing firm, is backing a stablecoin. What do you make of that trend? Is that something you're thinking about supporting?
Well, first off, I mean, the industry has realized that creating a digital form of the dollar is better than the dollar, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. So Tether was the first to do this in some regard, but it doesn't have the backing that people need in order to feel really safe about it. In spite of not having good backing and all kinds of doubts about it, people are using it at tremendous volumes. And it's because you can move the money very quickly.
Yeah, even more than the US dollar now, I think, for
Exactly.
Bitcoin trading.
So the value is there. And a number of folks are entering the market trying to do it right. So for me personally, I think if you want to have a stable coin, it's got to be backed by a dollar. There's some that are trying to do algorithmic backed or asset backed. Those will work for a while, but sooner or later, whoever's managing that algorithm or whoever's managing that policy, they make mistakes. The great thing about Bitcoin is that we kind of took the rules away from humans that make mistakes in terms of inflation and putting out more money, and we said, we're going to set the rules to the ones that we know that work. We're going to give it to computers to run. So anyway, I'm on a tangent there, but the principle's the same. Like if you want to have a good stable coin, it needs to be actually backed by a dollar. So Circle's got a new coin out, Paxos has a new coin out, Gemini has a new coin out. Look forward to seeing the traction on those. All three of those are supported through BitGo wallets. We're happy to do that.
Oh, they are, but not Tether.
We don't support Tether. So Tether is based on a different protocol, the Mastercoin/Omni protocol. Also, the backing of it, frankly, I think it's got some problems. There's been just this last week, a decline in the price of Tether on certain exchanges. Got
to below $1.
To below $1, yeah. I don't think anybody knows the full story behind Tether, but my own opinion is that if I owned Tethers and I knew that there was $1 in the bank for every coin, if somebody wanted to sell me $1 for 95 cents, I would be buying them, right? So the fact that they're not out there on Kraken buying those tells me that there's something wrong with it.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here. Really glad you could join us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Jen Viechner, and for more Balancing the Ledger, come to fortune.com. See you next time.